hornet is even smaller, but he and his tribe drove the Bulmangani away. Your people can do the same.
It was 1976. Saturday mornings on CBS belonged to something wilder than most cartoons dared to be. And a man raised by apes in the heart of Africa swung onto the screen speaking perfect English and protecting a jungle that hid more secrets than anyone had ever mapped. This is the entire story of Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle. The jungle? Here I was born. Every episode opens the same way. Before the first scene of the story, Tarzan's own voice speaks directly to the audience over images of the African jungle.
Nakima, you had better stay here with Manu. I will only be gone a few days, little friend.
The canopy, the rivers, the green light falling through ancient trees. He tells them who he is. His parents died here when he was an infant. He would have died too, had a she-ape named Kala not found him and taken him in as her own. She taught him the ways of the wild. He learned quickly and grew strong. He came to share the friendship and trust of every creature in the jungle. And now, the jungle is his domain, filled with beauty and danger, and with lost cities full of both good and evil. He protects those who come here. He is Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle. That narration sets everything up. The show that follows it is built around a man who belongs completely to the world he lives in. Not a visitor, not an outsider making his way through unfamiliar territory.
Gayat, you are my friend. Tarzan! Yo!
But the one person who knows the jungle the way the jungle knows itself. He swings through it with total ease. He communicates with its animals. He reads the ground and the air and the water the way most people read a street they grew up on. He is intelligent, calm, and articulate, not the grunting Hollywood caricature, but a man shaped by the wild into something the wild itself trusts. At his side is Nkima, a small monkey who rides on his shoulder and travels with him everywhere. When Tarzan calls across the jungle, the great elephants known as Tantor come. His golden lion, Jad Balja, an animal he raised from a cub, moves through the trees and grass alongside him when the situation demands it. The Mangani, the great apes who raised him after Kala took him in.
Nakima, I think the answer to our mystery lies somewhere in this valley.
Speak their own language, and Tarzan speaks it fluently. All of this is who he is before any adventure begins. The jungle he lives in turns out to be far stranger and more crowded with hidden things than even Tarzan knows when the series starts. Behind waterfalls, inside extinct volcanoes, at the bottoms of crater lakes and through underground passages, there are entire civilizations that have been there for centuries or longer without the outside world ever knowing. Each time Tarzan moves in a new direction, he finds another one. And in each one, something has gone wrong that he is going to have to set right. The City of Gold and the City of Ivory. The first thing Tarzan runs into is a young woman named Thea fleeing through the jungle from soldiers trying to drag her back.
I'm Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle. And this is my little friend Nakima.
Tarzan?
She is from Athna, the City of Ivory, and the soldiers pursuing her are from Zandor, the City of Gold. The two cities have been enemies for as long as anyone in either of them can remember, and Thea has been caught in the middle of their old war. While helping Thea find her way home, Tarzan is captured by the Zandorian soldiers and brought in before their ruler. Queen Nemone, she is cold, imperious, and accustomed to absolute control over everyone within her walls. She has Tarzan thrown into the city prison, where his cellmate turns out to be a man named Phobeg, a royal guard, and by every account, the strongest man in Zandor. Nemone finds the combination of two powerful men in a cell too entertaining to leave alone.
Since before my grandfather.
Your people far outnumber the Bulmangani.
And she orders them both into the arena to fight each other. Tarzan fights. He handles Phobeg with the same composure he brings to everything, and neither man disgraces himself in the arena. Afterward, Tarzan ends up imprisoned again, alongside Thea, this time after a confrontation with Tomos, Nemoni's calculating prime minister. But Phobeg, the man Tarzan just fought, has not forgotten what happened in that cell. He quietly arranges an escape for both of them. Tarzan gets Thea back to Athene. Phobeg becomes a hidden ally inside Xandor, someone who will help Tarzan again when Nemone's schemes eventually circle back, as they will more than once across the series. Vikings, golden lions, and lost cities. The jungle keeps offering surprises.
Guards, begin! Get to work, you little loafers!
The next one is a settlement of Vikings, descendants of Norse sailors blown so far off course by a storm roughly 1,000 years ago that they ended up in Africa and simply stayed. They have been there ever since, keeping their customs, their language, their longhouse traditions, and their clan hierarchy completely intact in the middle of the jungle, generation after generation, as if Odin himself had planted them there and they had never thought to question it. Their chieftain Eric captures Tarzan and sets him to work as a slave for his daughter Karina. Karina is different from her father, curious, thoughtful, and willing to listen to someone outside the settlement's walls. She and Tarzan talk through the long days of his captivity, and she explains the whole history of how her people ended up where they are.
I've heard many stories about you, but I never believed them.
The storm, the landing, the decision to remain, the slow forgetting of what lay beyond the trees. She also tells him that she has fallen in love with a young man named Bjorn, the son of a lawman named Sven, and that her father will not hear of it. Eric considers the match beneath his daughter's station and will not be moved. Before Tarzan has been there very long, he uncovers a conspiracy inside the settlement. A Viking named Torvald intends to overthrow Eric and take control of the community for himself. Tarzan stops it. Eric keeps his position. The matter between Karina and Bjorn stays unresolved when Tarzan leaves, but it is still alive. The Bolmangani appear early in the series.
Lock them up! The Emperor will deal with them in the morning!
And become one of its recurring antagonists throughout the run. They are a race of gorilla men, large, organized, and ruthless, who use other jungle creatures as slaves to serve their city and expand their territory outward into the jungle. Tarzan considers his responsibility. When they begin enslaving the monkey people, Tarzan moves against them directly. He raised Jad Balja from a foundling cub he found alone in the jungle years earlier, and the bond between them runs deeper than training. It is Jad Balja who rallies the elephants while Tarzan works to free the captives from inside the operation. The Bolmangani and their emperor are driven back. They remember it. They will return more than once, and each time they come back, the plan is more carefully assembled than the last. Forbidden cities and graveyard grounds. An old friend of Tarzan's named Paul Gregory arrives in the jungle with his daughter, looking for his son Brian, who disappeared while searching for a city hidden inside an extinct volcano called Tuinbaka, the forbidden city of Ushar, rumored to hold a jewel known as the Father of the Diamond. 3 thieves, Megara, Castel, and Shabalt, are also in the jungle chasing the same map, and they move faster. Both groups end up captured by the soldiers of Ushar, and Tarzan has to get everyone out of a place that does not welcome visitors. Elephant skeletons begin turning up across the jungle, stripped clean of their tusks. Tarzan traces the cause to soldiers from a city called Noverd, whose king worships a woolly mammoth as a god and believes the accumulated tusks of the graveyard of the elephants, a sacred place where old elephants go when their time is ending, belong to him by divine authority. The king wants Tarzan to guide him there. Tarzan refuses and finds another way through the standoff that leaves the graveyard untouched. Queen Nemone reaches out from Xandor again. A runaway boy named Arando turns up in the jungle, the younger brother of Thea, the woman Tarzan helped in the very first story. And Tarzan is taking him home to Athna when Tomos, Nemone's prime minister, spots the opportunity and uses the boy as bait in a trap designed to recapture Tarzan. The trap is carefully laid. It does not hold. Strange visitors, giant people, and medieval knights. Something lands in the jungle that Tarzan has never encountered before: a spacecraft. A scientist named Dr. Krolar has come to collect specimens.
No day for your people, Coney. Never again will the Bolmangani rule this valley.
Animals, plants, anything living and interesting enough to bring back to his world as examples of what Earth contains. His crew works with efficient indifference, sweeping through the jungle and taking what they want without any awareness that the jungle belongs to anyone. His collection eventually includes Tarzan himself, alongside an anthropologist named June Bennington, who gets caught in the operation while she was studying the apes and simply disappeared into the same sweep. Tarzan finds his way out of the collection process. The machinery holding him is not designed for someone who understands the jungle as well as he does, and makes sure Krolar's ship leaves without what it came for. A drought pushes Tarzan into unfamiliar terrain, following enormous footprints through cracked mud into a hidden valley of oversized trees and vegetation.
Things will never change until your people decide to change them.
The valley is home to a tribe of giants, very large humans living in a treetop village called Zoram. A young giant named Yuri has a father imprisoned by their tyrannical king Odysseus, and a major storm is already building on the horizon when Tarzan arrives. He dismantles the tyranny and helps the village prepare for the weather, all before the storm reaches the valley. A hot air balloon crashes somewhere in the jungle, and Tarzan goes looking for the pilot. The search takes him to the Valley of Nimr, where a civilization of medieval knights has been living in complete isolation for centuries, keeping their codes and tournaments and feudal structures intact as if the outside world never moved on. Their queen, Grinalda, falls ill almost immediately after Tarzan arrives.
Xandor, the city of gold, and somewhere beneath those glittering domes, we'll find Orlando.
A knight named Sir Mullad moves quickly to exploit her illness, has Tarzan thrown into the dungeon, and begins positioning himself for the throne. A royal physician named Sir Ronald gets word to Tarzan about what is happening. Tarzan also finds the balloonist, a writer named Annie Talbot, who went down in the valley, and together they work from inside the dungeon to expose Mullad before the queen is well enough to face him directly. The robot Tarzan and the sorceress. A fortune hunter named Mr. Senti hires a scientist to build a robot that looks exactly like Tarzan, moves like him, and can be sent loose in the jungle to mistreat animals and steal the jewels of Opa while the real Tarzan takes the blame. The plan nearly works.
Then I shall see you at the other end.
Moves through the jungle hurting the animals that trust Tarzan completely, and because it looks and moves like him, the animals do not understand what is happening until the damage is already done. Even Nekima and Jadbalja cannot tell the two apart at a distance. The mistrust between Tarzan and the creatures he has lived alongside his entire life builds quickly and dangerously, and for the first time, the jungle does not feel safe for him. He tracks the robot through the jungle, corner by corner and creature by creature, until he has enough to prove it exists and dismantle the whole operation before the damage to his relationships with the animals becomes permanent. A boy named Tuck crosses Tarzan's path while being chased by a lion, and then mistakes Tarzan for a god called Aliat.
There is a wall.
Incredible! How can this be?
because the resemblance is apparently exact enough to be convincing. Tuck's father has been transformed into a baboon by the sorceress Queen Nubia, who rules a city called Rashid, full of pyramids and temples. Tarzan goes to Rashid to find Tuck's father and confront Nubia directly. Once inside the city, he studies how her supposed magic actually functions and finds the mechanism behind it, the thing that makes it look like something it is not, and pulls it apart from the inside. Pellucidar and the Ice Creature. A boy named Kimo leads Tarzan and Nekima through a crater opening into something Tarzan has never seen. A world beneath the surface of the earth, lit by its own inner sun, alive with prehistoric creatures that went extinct on the surface long ago.
Great as Tantor the elephant. I wanted to see for myself. Silence! But it is a lot.
The air down there is warm and dense, and the landscape is enormous in a way that makes the African jungle feel contained by comparison. Down here, two tribes have been at war with each other for so long that neither side can clearly articulate what the original disagreement was about. Tarzan, with help from a king's daughter named Nina, works to find the argument that reaches both rulers at the same time, something that makes a truce feel not just possible but necessary, before the prehistoric wilderness around them makes the point for them. Back on the surface, a volcano erupts and frees something that has been sealed inside it for an unimaginably long time. A massive creature, enormous and white, something like a yeti.
Ah, Aquila is a clever young lady. Well done, Nekima. Unlock the chains.
Frozen into the ice of the glacier and now loose in the jungle as the glacier melts away from around it. A poacher named Norcross arrives almost immediately alongside his assistant, moving through the jungle with the specific focus of someone who has already decided what this creature is worth and to whom he intends to sell it. Tarzan stays between Norcross and the creature until the jungle finds its own equilibrium again, and there is nothing left for the poacher to take. Dr. Krolar's spacecraft returns. This time, the mission is different. A commander named Dumay has come without Krolar, and what he wants is not a specimen. He wants Tarzan's memories. His plan is to scan Tarzan's mind, extract everything that makes him capable, and transfer those abilities to himself to use as an advantage in commanding a space fleet.
Sound, my large friend.
Tarzan, it is I, Phobeg.
Tarzan resists the scanning process and finds a way to break it before it completes. The Bolmangani Emperor closes out the first run of stories. He comes back having studied every previous failure, with a plan built around what Tarzan has done before, contingencies where the old weak points used to be. He arranges for his guerrilla allies to abduct a female archaeologist named Lois as bait and sets the trap in the Opar region where he intends to rebuild his city. Lois, even as a prisoner, argues that the ground there is geologically unstable and unsuitable for construction. Tarzan gets her out. The Bolmangani are turned back again. Atlantis, tiny cities, and ancient lands. A beached whale named Zupisa brings Tarzan into the ocean and eventually to Atlantis.
Accept that fact, the easier it will.
Who are you? And why have you taken me prisoner?
Silence.
A real civilization, hidden underwater, currently being run by a lord named Cinnabar, who has enslaved whales to power the city while the rightful ruler, King Neptune, is away. Tarzan organizes a rebellion among the whales, and then helps a princess named Aquila find a replacement power source before the city floods from losing the one it has been running on. A thunderstorm pushes Tarzan into a cave alongside an injured member of the bird people, a winged humanoid race named Lair with a wounded wing. The bird people and the land people have been in a feud for generations. Neither king sees any reason to stop. King Aviaro of the bird people considers the land people beneath any kind of serious consideration. Tarzan spends time with both communities until he finds the angle that gets through to both sides at once.
Alien is actually helping us.
Her name is Lyra.
On a journey across a mountain range using a giant bird named Argus, Tarzan carries home a woman named Reba, an inch-high person from a civilization of tiny people called Onata on the Isle of Xeris. Reba's father, Governor Dumas, immediately puts Tarzan to work as a weapon in their war against a rival tiny city called Zome. Zome has a weapon of its own, a giant robot called the Colossus, built to enforce the rule of whoever is strongest. The problem that ends the war is that the Colossus eventually turns on the Zomans who built it, because they can no longer prove they are the strongest. Tarzan destroys the Colossus and leaves both cities in a position where they no longer have the option of solving things that way. Paloldan and the Amazon lands.
My ape mother, Kala, taught me long ago that when I look down my nose at others,
In the lost land of Paloldan, drawn directly from Edgar Rice Burroughs' own novel Tarzan the Terrible, a Wasden chief named Danat has been behaving in ways that make no sense to anyone who has known him. His judgments are wrong. His decisions are cruel in ways they never used to be. Something has changed in him, and the people around him cannot explain it. When Tarzan gets inside the chief's tower and forces his way through the guards, he finds the real Danat locked behind an iron mask in a hidden room. Danat's own brother, Tanat, has stolen his identity and assumed his position, and has been using the authority of the chieftaincy to force the tribe to mine gold from inside an active volcano. Work that is killing people and destabilizing the ground beneath the city.
frightens him a great deal. We will proceed from here on foot. Mighty Tantor.
The key to the Iron Mask is somewhere inside the tower, guarded by a Dimetrodon, an ancient, finned predator from the depths of Pellucidar that should not exist above ground, but does. Tarzan locates the key, frees Danat, and uses a griff, a massive horned creature that looks like something between a Triceratops and a Stegosaurus, and is treated by the people of Paloldan with something close to reverence, to help expose Tanit before the tribe in a way that cannot be argued with. A feral woman named Dore comes out of the jungle able to communicate with animals the same way Tarzan can. She was raised by lions and wears a locket that turns out to carry the royal insignia of the Amazon tribe. Tarzan takes her to the Amazon queen, Arkad.
Realizing your mistakes, Orando, you have already traveled a long way down the road.
Only to discover that the captain of the guard, a woman named Rwanda, had arranged for Dore's death years ago to secure the line of succession for herself. A water creature called Gordo is also attacking the tribe, looking for a missing egg from her nest. Both problems arrive at the same time and have to be solved at the same time. A group of conquistadors emerges from the jungle, led by a man named Carlos, who believes his ancestors left treasure in the mountains where a small humanoid ice people called the Danlumangani make their home. Tarzan enlists a snow leopard named Tarshida to help protect the Danlumangani and their mountain city from the treasure hunters before the mountain's own instability decides the outcome. The final stories. The last stretch of the series keeps pushing deeper.
I will see you rot in the dungeon for this.
A city built at the top of two enormous trees turns out to be running on the labor of enslaved elephants, taken in the night by what looked like giant spiders but turned out to be machines piloted by the city's inhabitants. The community is split between workers and scholars living under very different conditions, and a labor leader named Ratchnid has been building toward using the elephants to force a renegotiation. Tarzan moves through both levels of the city until there is a path that does not require anyone to remain enslaved. A professor named Ragsdale crashes his plane in the jungle and leads Tarzan to a lost Mayan city where a high priest claims to be the god Kukulkan. He is an alien who has been living among the city's people long enough to make the claim credible. Tarzan works through the logic of the city and finds the thread that unravels it.
Run, Holden, Meltar!
Jane Porter appears exactly once in the entire series. She arrives with her father on an archaeological expedition, searching for a lost city called Kowloon. Tarzan finds them in the jungle, helps them locate what they came for, and walks them back out towards civilization himself when their work is finished. She is voiced by Linda Gary. She does not appear again. The Bulmangani make their final move in the last season, the most carefully constructed attempt yet, built around everything that failed before. The Emperor has studied the pattern of his previous defeats and closed off the obvious approaches. Tarzan works through it anyway, the same way he works through everything, methodically, without panic, using the jungle as an extension of his own intelligence. The Bulmangani are turned back.
But why have you returned to Zondor, Tarzan?
Tomos took a young friend of mine prisoner.
The final episode of the series aired on November 3rd, 1979. It was called Tarzan and the White Elephant. A white elephant, rare, revered, and coveted by those who believed ownership of it conferred power or divine favor, had appeared in the jungle, and the people who wanted to possess it came from several directions. Tarzan moved through each of them in turn and made sure the animal stayed where it belonged. The episode ended, the jungle went quiet, and the series was done. No formal ending, no ceremony, just the last story finished and the jungle still standing. What the jungle held. Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle ran for 36 episodes across 4 seasons on CBS, beginning September 11th, 1976, and producing new episodes through 1979.
First concern is to free Nakima and the other captive animals.
But what of my people?
With reruns continuing in various formats until 1982. Filmation used rotoscoping, tracing animation directly over filmed live-action movement, to give Tarzan a physical fluidity that most Saturday morning cartoons of the era simply did not have. He moved through the trees with the weight and rhythm of a real body, not the flat approximation of motion that most animation of the period settled for. The visual design came from Bern Hogarth's decades of work on the Tarzan newspaper comic strip, muscular, dynamic, grounded in real anatomy. The Tarzan yell was performed by Danton Burrows, the grandson of Edgar Rice Burroughs himself, who created the character. Robert Ridgely provided the speaking voice throughout the run. The writers on the Filmation staff had actually read the Burroughs novels. It showed in the details.
We will never forget you.
Nor I, you. Farewell.
The Mangani language used correctly, the lost cities matching their source material, Nkima on Tarzan's shoulder instead of a chimpanzee who never belonged there. The show treated its audience like people who could follow a story that respected the world it came from. For the generation of kids who found it on Saturday mornings between 1976 and the early 1980s, it was a Tarzan who felt real in a way the old movies never quite managed. Not performing wildness from the outside, but living inside the jungle the way the jungle itself lived, and protecting it with the kind of calm, steady intelligence that only comes from genuinely belonging somewhere. If this brought something back that you haven't thought about in a while, or if you're discovering it for the very first time, hit the like button and subscribe. There's a lot more story worth telling right here. See you next time.